Greetings to you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you are on the globe. My name is Yetunde Holloway, and I am the chair of the Women in Engineering Committee of the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, WFEO, which is the international organization for the engineering profession worldwide. It was founded in 1968 under the auspices of UNESCO. WFEO brings together national engineering institutions from about 100 nations and presents more than 30 million engineers. The WFEO theme for 2023 is Engineering Innovation for a More Resilient World. So our committee, in partnership with the International Networks of Women's Engineers and Scientists, INWES, International Coalition for Sustainable Infrastructure, ICSI, the Institution of Civil Engineers, UK, the Engineering Council of South Africa, the Ghana Institution of Engineers, and my very own Nigerian Society of Engineers is hosting a webinar themed Resilient Women, Resilient World. Welcome to everyone here present today. Very warm welcome to everyone present today, especially considering the different time zones. I know this is an effort. I welcome Professor José Vieira, President WFEO, and Engineer Mustafa Shehu, President-elect WFEO, who will be giving the opening and closing remarks, respectively. We have 6 distinguished speakers today, and they're most appreciated. I believe that they all have great examples of success stories and strategies to share with us. They will enhance our understanding of how our theme applies towards building a resilient world and overcoming the challenges of achieving the SDGs. Today we have with us Ania Lopez from Italy, Leong from Malaysia, Richard Coackley from the UK, Savina Carluccio from the UK, Yetunde Aladeitan from Nigeria, and Cillia Molomo-Mphephu from South Africa. And they will all be making presentations for about 10 minutes each on their chosen topics relating to the theme, after which we will ask a few questions. I must mention particularly Richard for being patient with me while I was getting this event together. Thank you, Richard. Perhaps realizing his role in emphasizing the diversity of the committee. I think today we have speakers from various parts of the world. I think the only place we haven't been to is the Americas. But I also thank Engineer Dr. Enyonam Kpekpena from Ghana, who will be co-moderating the event today with me. Please join me in welcoming Professor Vieira for opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Yetunde Holloway. Distinguished invited speakers, Richard Coackley, Leong, Yetunde Mariam Aladeitan, Cillia Molomo-Mphephu, Ania Lopez, Savina Carluccio, and Enyonam Kpekpena. Dear President-elect Mustafa, Shehu, my friend, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues of engineering, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. As President of WFEO, the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, I am very pleased and honored to be joining you and everybody virtually at this very interesting webinar on resilient women, resilient world. First and foremost, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers and co-organizers who have worked tirelessly to shape today's webinar, with special recognition to WFEO Committee Women in Engineering and its chair, Engineer Yetunde Holloway. As the world's largest association of international engineering organizations, WFEO is committed to the implementation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals through engineering capacity development. Since its establishment in 1968, WFEO has consistently collaborated with national and international professional organizations to proactively tackle global and national challenges. This collaboration aims to benefit humanity through the application of innovative engineering technologies and provision of policy guidance. Our world is undergoing unprecedented changes, marking a pivotal moment in history. UNESCO's latest engineering report stresses that the climate change will impose increased and novel risks on numerous natural and human systems, notably through changes in climate variability and in the frequency and magnitude of extreme climate events. In this context, resilience emerges as a crucial capability for fostering engineering innovation. Resilience enables us to confront adversity, withstand shocks, and consistently adapt to crises. Each crisis presents both threats and opportunities that can catalyze transformative shifts in technology, work patterns, and organization structures. I firmly believe that engineering and engineers play a fundamental role in finding and implementing innovative solutions to face the global climate crisis in building the necessary resilient infrastructures for sustainable development. The vision, sensitivity, and pragmatism inherent in the family in female approach to problem solving are essential for facing the climate change challenges and creating conditions for a more resilient world for all. However, several official reports have revealed that in many countries, obstacles persist in empowering female engineering graduates, and there are restrictions that prevent girls from accessing science and engineering careers. It is imperative to address and eliminate these systemic and structural barriers, which encompass legislative and cultural changes. This action is essential for facilitating equitable progress for women and their ascent to leadership positions within society. I am confident that this webinar will significantly contribute to the recognition of resilient women in the dialogue and pursuit of solutions for the global consequences of climate change. Moreover, I trust that you will find fresh ideas for harnessing engineering knowledge and experience in our collective efforts to build a more resilient world against uncertainty and disaster through engineering innovation. I wish you all a very successful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We appreciate your joining us on the speech. Please permit me to welcome again my co-moderator and to read her profile briefly before we delve into the meat of the webinar. Engineer Dr. Mrs. Enyonam Kpekpena is a fellow of the Ghana Institution of Engineers, and she's the manager, information and communication technology, projects delivery and program management office, program office leader at the Electricity Company of Ghana. She's a fellow of the Ghana Institution of Engineering and the current president of Women in Engineering, WINE, Ghana. And she's also a founding president of the ECG WINE chapter, and also a member of the Project Management Institute, Ghana and the USA. She's currently the Deputy Vice Chair for Female Retention and Leadership in Engineering Theme 2 for the WFEO Committee. She also serves as the deputy chair for the WIE FAEO, Federation of African Engineering Organizations. Engineer Enyonam obtained her bachelor's degree in electrical and electronic engineering from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in 2000, where she specialized in telecommunications and computers. She discovered her love for academia and obtained a Master's of Science degree in management with specialization in information technology, IT, and project management from 2003 to 2004 at the Colorado Technical University, USA. She also has a doctorate degree in management from the same university with the concentration in project management from 2014 to 2017. Her research interests include IT, project management, project performance management, and earned value management. Enyonam and I will also give a brief synopsis of the webinar. So as we enter the last quarter of 2023, which is today, we are virtually just 6 years away from the deadline of the 2030 agenda. And if those SDGs are to be achieved and to be truly sustainable, with no one being left behind, the implementation must be owned by local actors in every part of the globe. And that's why we have a diversity of speakers today. Therefore, our chosen speakers who are from diverse backgrounds from different parts of the world will speak to the theme, Resilient Women, Resilient World, through the highlighted SDGs and interrogate their progress in their parts of the world. This webinar will stimulate a review on the progress in different parts of the world and further promote knowledge and catalyze further action. So we're looking at SDG 2, Zero Hunger, SDG 3, Health, SDG 4, Education, SDG 5, Gender Equality, which is our main theme for the committee, SDG 6, Water and Sanitation, SDG 7, Energy, SDG 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure, SDG 13, Climate, and SDG 11, Cities. Those are some of the webinars, the SDGs that we consider to be a core of the 17 SDGs. And as we also say that they're interconnected. So by addressing these interconnected SDGs, along with the resilience of women, we aim to achieve holistic development and promote the creation of sustainable communities. The Women in Engineering Committee prioritizes the well-being of individuals, especially females, fosters equity and environmental stewardship. So the discourse highlights the fact that women play a crucial role in driving progress towards achieving each of these goals. So the theme of the webinar contemplates a resilient world, which can only be achieved by the integration of the SDGs, and how a resilient woman in any color, race, tribe, or social strata is the mainstay of such a world. The speakers will discuss how resilient women are instrumental in driving progress across various SDGs, as well as their contributions in health, education, gender equality, water, sanitation, energy, climate change, industry, infrastructure, and cities. The questions, I think there's been something in the chat about questions. The participants can put their questions in the link that has been provided. So I'm going to hand over to Enyonam to delve a bit deeper into the synopsis for a few minutes, then we can go into the then the participants can present their papers. Thank you. Enyonam, over to you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Yetunde Holloway. It's a privilege for me to chair, to co-moderate with Engineer Yetunde. She's actually introduced me, so I'll move straight into the synopsis. Our focus today is to understand and dissect the theme. We have had a theme, resilient women, resilient world. We want to understand what we mean by resilient women, what their roles are, their unique qualities, and know how resilient women can impact this world to make the world resilient as we strive to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. But before we kick off, please let me whet your appetites as we try to understand what the word resilience means. Resilience is the ability to bounce back in the face of challenges, losses, and adversity. The resilient woman harnesses her inner strengths and rebounds quickly from setbacks such as transitions, illness, trauma, or the death of a loved one. And even at work, as we work as engineers, as we face challenges as females, how do we bounce back to be able to ensure that our focus is on achieving the SDGs and not just giving up? Resilience is also the ability to self-soothe during these difficult times. Resilient women are vital for achieving sustainable development and creating a more equitable and resilient world for all. The emphasis will be that empowering and supporting women is therefore crucial for realizing the full potential of the SDGs and building a sustainable future. By recognizing and empowering resilient women, we can accelerate progress towards achieving all the SDGs. And the SDGs we are focusing on has been mentioned by my co-moderator, Engineer Yetunde. The webinar also celebrates and disseminates examples of SDG implementation in action with a focus on the role of women and resilience, both personal and societal. We'll now dive into our discussions with our 6 distinguished speakers for today. After examining their profiles, I said to myself, I will not miss this opportunity for anything. Their profiles say it all. And their profiles can be found in the flyer. We sent a flyer around. I will introduce our first 2 speakers for today. Savina Carluccio. Savina Carluccio is our speaker, and I'll just mention her country where she comes from. She comes from Savina Carluccio, I'll just go ahead. She's the Executive Director at International Coalition for Sustainable Infrastructure. And Savina is the Executive Director of the International Coalition for Sustainable Infrastructure and a fervent advocate of the role of civil engineers in tackling our society's biggest challenges. She is an experienced civil engineer and infrastructure practitioner with almost 2 decades of experience advising government, infrastructure owners and operators, multilateral development banks, and NGOs to develop and implement inclusive, sustainable, and resilient infrastructure that is fit for the future. Prior to taking her role at ICSI, she worked as an associate director and infrastructure advisor at Europe, and she was the head of guidance and standards at the Resilience Shifts. So she works directly with resilience. She also serves as a member of the Institution of Civil Engineers Advisory Board on Sustainable and Resilient Infrastructure. Unfortunately, Savina had an emergency this morning, and so what we will do is, once I finish reading the profile of Yetunde, Dr. Yetunde, we will move into listening to her video. Dr. Yetunde is our second speaker. She's coming from Nigeria, and Yetunde holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife in 2001. And a Master of Science degree in Oil and Gas Engineering from the Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen, Scotland. She worked briefly at Amazon Energy Limited, an oil and gas servicing firm based in Lagos between 2006 and 2007. She worked She joined the Faculty of Engineering, University of Abuja in 2008 as a lecturer in the Department of Chemical Engineering. Dr. Aladeitan obtained a PhD in Petroleum Engineering from the African University of Science and Technology, Abuja. Aladeitan is a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Society of Petroleum Engineers, Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, Association of Professional Women Engineers. She's she's registered with the Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, current. She's a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and then the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers as well. She is an ardent STEM advocate at Young Girls APWEN, where she has also served in various capacities at the national and branch levels. She was the Technical Secretary of APWEN Abuja chapter from 2015 to 2017 and is currently the National Technical Secretary for APWEN. She's happily married to Dr. Olanewaju Aladeitan, and they are blessed with 2 children. So on this note, I will call upon I'll call that we show the video of Savina.
Hello all, greetings from London. From me, Savina Carluccio, I'm the Executive Director of the International Coalition for Sustainable Infrastructure. I'm delighted to be here today. And thank you very much to Yetunde and to the Women in Engineering Committee for inviting me to contribute to this very interesting webinar. My topic is thinking about the role of women in infrastructure development and what actions they can take in supporting the implementation not only of sustainable development, but with a specific focus on infrastructure resilience. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about ICSI. It was founded in 2019, and founding members include the Institution of Civil Engineers in the UK, the American Society of Civil Engineers, the Global Covenant of Mayors, and others. And the World Federation of Engineering Organization joined later the board of ICSI, and the wonderful Yetunde Holloway is one of our board members. ICSI's mission is to mobilize an engineering-led coalition to make resilience and sustainability a cornerstone of every decision in the infrastructure lifecycle. And we're raising the voice of the engineering community to ensure that this type of resilient, sustainable, inclusive infrastructure can be developed now and in the future by placing engineers at the forefront of climate action, harnessing their ability to provide solutions to those with in demand for solutions, such as the policymakers, the investors, the infrastructure owner operators. So moving on to the topic of my presentation, I'd like to start by highlighting the central role of infrastructure in underpinning the implementation and delivery of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. So network systems, infrastructure systems such as energy, transportation, water, etc., provide basic services that are essential for the functioning of society, but also support the non-networked infrastructure systems such as school, hospitals, community centers. And they both, to various degrees, influence all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and therefore underpin the implementation of sustainable development more broadly. And when we think about gender equality, which is SDG 5, infrastructure influences the achievement of all the targets of SDG 5, gender equality, and the 32 SDG targets across 11 of the 17 goals that include a direct reference to gender-related issues. So infrastructure and gender, there is a strong interrelation between the two, and they both are fundamental for delivering on the SDGs. Still on this topic, infrastructure that is inclusive is planned, designed, implemented, and managed with a focus on the needs of the users, leaving no one behind. So not leaving behind particularly vulnerable and marginalized groups such as women, youth, the elderly, and people with disability. And the absence of female professionals, particularly in the planning and design of infrastructure, can contribute to the creation of infrastructure that is gender blind, and so does not consider the specific needs and the use patterns for women and girls. So, which is the focus of my presentation in terms of the role of women in infrastructure. But of course, inclusive infrastructure includes many more groups than just women and girls. But ensuring equal access to infrastructure services for women and girls is a critical step to close that gender gap that we are witnessing in the industry across the world. There is a lot to be gained by ensuring equal access, not only to improve and protect the lives and livelihoods of women and girls, but also to benefit the economy, the global economy as well. It's now a few years old, but there is a McKinsey Global Institute estimate that says that approximately $28 trillion could be added to the annual GDP globally in 2020 by 2025 if we achieve equal participation of women and men in the economy. And then thinking about infrastructure resilience, this is particularly critical for women because when infrastructure systems fail, then women and girls are usually disproportionately affected by the loss of infrastructure services. So for example, in 2004, there was a tsunami in the Indian Ocean, and then female deaths outnumbered male deaths by a huge margin in India, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. And this was because women were the primary household caregivers, so they stayed behind to care for children and other family members in houses that were not designed to withstand the shocks of tsunami. And so that resulted in greater female casualties. So infrastructure resilience is essential in consideration of retrofitting existing and developing new infrastructure, and women are an integral part of this. I want to share with you a few case studies that show how women have played a key role and good practice for improving social inclusion and gender equality in infrastructure development. The first case study is about rural renewable energy project in Sierra Leone. It's a UN Ops project that was delivered in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and the UK Department for International Development, DFID. So there was a critical need for electricity in health facilities, and this project focused on improving the access to energy for rural communities as well as rural health centers, including maternal health clinics. So ultimately, up to 360,000 people living in rural and remote areas have benefited from this project. One good practice that was adopted is a gender action plan, which was developed to ensure that women were included in consultations with at all stages of design implementation of this project. Local women were also hired and trained to assemble and install electricity meters, and then also to become maintenance engineers, thereby providing employment and skills to female workers. The provision of stable lighting led to an increased number of women visiting antenatal and community health clinics to give birth in a safer environment. So reducing the risk to them and to their children. So you see how infrastructure delivers then broader outcomes such as safety for this group of, specifically for women in this case. The next case study is, we're now moving to Nepal, and it's a Pratibhada project by people in need. The project focused on the disaster mitigation in a small town in the mountainous region of Nepal that is prone to landslide, monsoon, and flash flooding. So this project worked really closely with the local level disaster management bodies and local authorities and capacity building programs, and provided training sessions and workshops using hazard and risk mapping tools. Local authorities were involved in awareness raising campaign, and then workshops were held also with other residents in affected areas. But specifically relevant to the gender element, gender analysis exercises were conducted to analyze and understand the community needs, barriers, and capacity to actually improve inclusion of women. So local champions, primarily women, were recognized as key actors for community mobilization, but also for local advocacy. And these local champions, together with other marginalized community, were engaged and mobilized during the development and execution of the emergency evacuation plan. So this included conducting community awareness and community level geohazard assessment. So making the better preparing the community for disaster risk, and particularly involving women as a central stakeholder in the project development and delivery. So communities are benefiting from this project through the better understanding of the hazards and risks, and knowing how they can evacuate should a disaster strike. And so this awareness is crucial then to preventing the loss of life, livelihood and property, and local population, in particularly women and the elderly, were empowered by their participation through this process, and they were therefore made more resilient by this project. And finally, is a case of rural transport improvement in Bangladesh. This is a project by the World Bank that used the performance-based maintenance contracts to hire people from poor backgrounds, including women and those from disadvantaged communities, to maintain the road network in the rural areas of Bangladesh. And that allows them to earn a wage while cost-effectively improving the infrastructure in the country. And this way, the roads of Bangladesh are maintained throughout the whole year, and the poorest people, in particular women, are able to secure a livelihood and earn a wage. So this was a pilot program that maintained 420 kilometers of rural roads in 8 districts across the country and employed more than 400 vulnerable women. And so the program really contributed to empowering vulnerable women, allowing them then to earn a wage, contribute to the decision-making within their household. So the program also generated considerable long-term employment opportunity. And in fact, I know, because I traveled to Bangladesh, that the local transport authority is regularly employing women to maintain rural road on their road network. And so women benefit from this program, but also contribute to their community and to their country's economic systems. Just to conclude, giving a voice to the needs and priorities of women and girls alongside those of men and boys and other genders in the planning and design and management of infrastructure through both consultation with diverse user groups and increasing the involvement of female infrastructure professionals and implementing policies. I think that's another key enabler that we really need to highlight in this context. Policies and standards that need to be developed that support inclusive infrastructure. And so all of this enablers, so the consultation, the policies, the increased involvement in female in the profession, all of this can lead to the development of gender responsive or even gender transformative infrastructure that is made more resilient by the involvement of women throughout all the stages of the infrastructure life cycle. Only through sustainable, resilient, and inclusive infrastructure we can effectively address the problems of growing population, resource scarcity, and increasing the risk from the natural hazards that are worsened by climate change, and ensure that there is gender equality and equal access to opportunities for all. So I'll stop here, and I'll thank you very much for your attention. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar and also the discussion. That unfortunately I cannot join today, but I wish you a great and productive discussion and a good rest of the event.
A big thank you to Savina Carluccio from UK for the great insights she has shared with us. I see a number of projects that are ongoing, making sure that females are involved in infrastructure development projects, and even what surprised was the projects she showed regarding mitigation of disasters from Nepal. Thank you very much, Savina Carluccio. I've already introduced Dr. Yetunde Aladeitan. Please go ahead and do your presentation.
Okay, please, can you share the slides? Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is, just like introduced, my name is Dr. Yetunde Aladeitan. My topic for today, Innovators, Women Pioneering Sustainable Energy Technologies. First up, I'd like to say a very big thank you to the Women of Engineering Organization for affording me this opportunity to join the conversation, to share my knowledge. Course. Now, I just want to ask, rhetorically, what are green, who are those, what's Green Innovator all about? That minimize environmental damage and ensures that natural resource manner. Now, we know all the conversations that trying to achieve a net zero and trying to reduce. We have, today I'll be speaking to the SDG 7, that is the G, and we all know that the SDGs are actually 17 global goals in 2015 as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable 7 focuses on ensuring access to affordable and modern energy for all. Now we know, and they have specific targets and indicators and energy access, energy efficiency, and the use of renewable energy. That's been going around that area of discourse. Connect the SDG 7 to the energy trilemma, which is the affordability and energy accessibility, sustainability. Looking at how these SDGs can actually be achieved and solve the problem of the energy trilemma. Factors, we're trying to balance it as per policy. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. Next slide, thank you. Yeah, so the next slide, we're talking about the role of women in driving sustainability. To tell you that it's very important for women to take to be in the forefront also of driving sustainable energy innovation, because the ones that actually feel the effect of lack of energy, the problems that we have when it comes to energy security, energy sustainability. And one of the key roles is for innovation and collaborations. Really, we cannot overemphasize the importance of collaborations and innovations, working together in a team, trying to, make better the situation. And also, we have role models and leadership. I remember when I was talking to someone, we didn't really have a lot of role models, but I think right now the narratives have changed. And so it's very important in this sector to have role models and leadership, people that can actually, talk to you, encourage you, conversations around this. And, so many things are changing because of leadership. Very importantly, we have community engagements, okay? Community engagements where, we go about the importance of sustainable energy innovation, try to get, make them be part of that particular thing, okay? So collaborative network, the innovation, very importantly, inclusivity, and everyone is talking about now, is very important for whatever we do now, because the perspective of a man. So yes, we are not, like people always say, we're not competing with them, but we also want to come, yeah. So we also have R&D. R&D can never be, it goes on and on and on to solve a lot of problems, also, so many research and developments have been going on. For example, with power, wind, for renewable energy compared to now, about around solar energy, biofuel, and so have entrepreneurship where people can actually go bring energy, not just energy, but cheap and affordable and clean energy. It's very important for women also to be able to be part of the CEOs now, that women, even in the renewable energy space, boards where policies and advocacies have been also. We also have sorry, apologies for that. Awareness, it's very important for us to be. Education is very important. Awareness, when people don't know, actually aware of the situation, then it's sorry, I'm told you're not hearing me well, so I think I'll just switch. Apologies. Okay, yeah, I hope you're hearing me better now. Gender diversity in STEM. There's been a lot of diversity in STEM. That is one of the things also, trying to do. They're trying to bring in more, female. Now, it's very important to have a gender diversity. One of it's the perspective that leads to innovative solutions. The talent pool, which involves the gender inclusive environments, expanding our potential to foster creativity and excellence in whatever we do. It also, if you look at this picture here, it just shows that the gender and the STEM space. And so we're trying to encourage as many women as possible. So we support broader gender equality goals and opportunities. Currently, the landscape that we have for in many STEM and discipline, particularly at leadership levels, what I be actually changing. We also have various barriers when it comes to STEM, which includes the stereotypes, the bias, the lack of role models, like I said earlier on, the work culture. It actually contributes to gender, a lack of gender diversity in STEM. Okay, I'm actually in my, I'm in my 5th slide, that is gender diversity in STEM. The current landscape also, involve the impact that's been done when we have a narrow perspective, which actually limits the progress, and reinforce gender-based inequality. I'm on slide 6. Can we go to the next slide, please? Slide 6. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. No, the slide before that. The one before that, please. Slide 6. Before that. The slide just before that. The benefits the benefits of gender diversity. We have various benefits. We have also what you call the varied approaches, which is different viewpoints, which enhance problem solving and foster well-rounded solutions. We also have various enhanced creativity. Please, you're not on the right slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so initiatives for change. Very importantly, education. Like I said, education can never be overemphasized, and that is what we do in APWEN. We try to encourage the young girls to explore STEM from an early age, provide them with equal educational opportunities, because when you, especially in the African context, people would rather want to send a boy to school rather than a girl. And so it's very important to be one of the initiatives for change education. And the role models, like I said earlier on, we need also to highlight successful women in STEM, presenting them as role models for these young girls, also mentors, so that, you know, the narratives can change. Now, bias training also, very importantly, it involves implementing bias awareness, training to counter unconscious bias in recruitment and evaluation. We also need to take into cognizance inclusive policies. And this means we're developing workplace policies that promote work-life balance and inclusivity. For example, in APWEN now, we just launched the 30% She Engineer Club, where we try to make them employ at least 30%, you know, have women being included in even the leadership roles in the places of work. And so quickly, let's look at, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, solar innovations by women. I'm going to just take two examples today because we really don't have a lot of time. And so the first example of women that are actually, you know, doing well in the renewable energy space, we have Onyinye Nzelu. She's the head of mini grids, NG Energy Access Nigeria. So basically, one of the projects they have done is with this mini grid is the energy access actually connects people in a community called Banga community in Niger State to an electric power supply for the first time ever. So you can imagine. And it actually empowers 300 customers comprising of households and micro, small enterprises, that's MSEs. The mini grid directly impacts over 1,500 people by providing them with affordable, reliable, and clean electricity. And we know that, of course, a lot of women will be empowered that way. You know, their businesses, many of them, their businesses might even depend on, you know, energy, and then they were not able to do a lot. I mean, so with this, a lot of women have been empowered. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So we have another example of a woman that is doing well in the renewable energy space, and we have engineer Uzochukwu Dennis. She's a climate advocate and climate reality leader. She actually, one of the most recent works that she did, the projects that she did, she's trying to empower communities through bioenergy. And basically what she's doing is a lot of times you go to all these communities, realize that they use coal, and we know that coal is not helping when it comes to the carbon footprint. And so we're trying as much as possible to reduce this. And so what she did was she actually went to the community. The community is called Luvu in Nasarawa State. So she not only helped them, but also trained them. She trained 50 women from the Luvu community in Nasarawa State on, you know, agricultural waste. Okay. And then what she did was arming them with the knowledge to transform this waste into useful resources. She has not only offered an environmental, you know, an environmental friendly, beneficial alternative, but also created prospects for cash generating by teaching them how to make briquettes. And briquettes is biomass. They make it from grass, from waste, you know, rather than them using coal. And so that way they're able to minimize the carbon footprint. Yes, so we can never talk about anything without talking about the challenges and the opportunities. We have a lot of challenges and we also have opportunities. So if you look at this picture now, how do we convert our problems to opportunities? One of the challenges, next slide, please. The next slide is on challenges and opportunities. Okay, thank you. So if you look at the cartoon here, it's talking about seeing a boy carrying his problems, at the end of the day, he's using it as an opportunity. And so, you know, gender disparity in STEM fields, it's good to implicit bias and stereotyping. It's important to have a work-life balance. That's one of the challenges. And also the opportunities, we have diverse perspective. We also have policies and advocacies. There's so much to be done, you know, in that space, and also entrepreneurship and innovation. Okay. Now, collaboration and impact. Please, can you go to slide 11? Collaboration and impact. Thank you. So basically, collaboration can never be, next slide, please. Next slide, I'm skipping that. Thank you. So collaboration and impact can never be emphasized. We need to synergize when it comes to collaboration. We need to unleash innovations. We need to have, you know, a global influence in this renewable energy space, and also cross-disciplinary fusion. You see engineers working with scientists just to be able to deliver. Now, you also need to empower people. Yeah, so quickly, I'm sorry, I think I've taken so much time, but I'll conclude by giving quotes for two people I admire so much. One is by Mahatma Gandhi, talking about the future depending on what we do in the present. So whatever we do in the present actually affects our future. And that's why we're transiting from fossil fuel to renewable energy, so that I think our children will have a good earth to live on. I'd also like to give a quote from the Deputy Secretary General, Amina J. Mohammed. She says, our collaborative experience have shown that development is not sustainable if it is not fair and inclusive. So it's very important for us to be inclusive, you know, in the renewable energy space. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very good one from Dr. Yetunde, my namesake Aladeitan. I like the fact you've given examples of Nigerian women who have gone to rural communities to make a difference in the renewable energy space. But because of time, we won't be able to talk too much about that. I'll introduce the next two speakers very quickly so that maybe we can make up for the lost time. So the next two speakers are Richard Coackley from the UK. I'll just do his profile quickly. His professional background as a chartered engineer is in water engineering and power, and he has worked in both consulting and contracting engineering businesses as the company house director. He has been involved in major infrastructure works in Europe, the Middle East, Pakistan, and Asia, in water supply, sanitation, maritime, major hydropower, and nuclear decommissioning. Richard is a past president of the Institute of Civil Engineers, 2011 to 2012, and he's an honorary life president of the European Council of Civil Engineers and a Smithsonian. You have to go and Google that if you don't know what it means. He is immediate past chair of the UK Reservoirs Committee and UK representative at the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. He's keenly interested in the professional development of engineers of all ages and long-term international relationships and the delivery of the United Nations SDGs. He's keen to infuse young engineers and broaden their skills while retraining independent thought in the logic and art of civil engineering. Richard was awarded is it O or C? I think it's the CBE for services to civil engineering in 2014. So that's for Richard. I must say that Richard is also interested in the progress of women, for him to be the only man in this webinar today. The next person who will speak after Richard is Ania Lopez. She's a PhD candidate in Industrial Management Engineering at the Antonio Rubetti Department of Computer Control and Management Engineering at the Sapienza University of Rome, with research activities in the field of agri production and renewable energies. She has double degrees in mechanical engineering in Cuba and Italy, with specialization in energy. And she has over 20 years experience as an engineer in public and private works. She's a consultant and project manager for energy engineering in the European project, Next Generation EU. Since 2013, she has been a CNI delegate for the WFEO and an active member in the Women and Energy Permanent Technical Committee, international participation in the World Engineers Conference, and forums with presentation of technical papers regarding Agenda 2030. Since 2019, she's also been a member of the board of directors of the WFEO UNESCO. Since 2020, chairman of the WFEO Awards Committee. So she's done so much. And since 2022, she has been the FAO project coordinator for the WFEO. So I'll hand over to Richard Coackley now for his presentation. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Yetunde, and thank you for your introduction. And yes, I'll share my screen, and so I can control the slides from here. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to present to you this afternoon. It's been an exciting and interesting webinar so far. Of course, I'm a man, so you're going to be hearing my views from those of a man. And although interesting, I would welcome very much the views of women with regard to my thoughts and observations in this presentation. So I look forward to hearing feedback and questions when we come to the end of towards the end of the webinar. So I've put together this 10 minutes into 3 elements. The first is really, what are we all up against? So that is a key question, and I'll just say a few words about that in the next slide. But the second is a project close to my heart. As engineers representative a number of years ago on site in Mali, in the Maldives, that's the capital of the Maldives, I installed a project which delivered fresh water and sanitation to all the inhabitants of the capital. So I'd like to share with you the work that was done and the observations that I had as we were increasing women in the project and developing women before the project as well. And then thirdly, my thoughts on how we created that pool of resilient women. Let me just move on to the next slide. So I've started with a short quotation that actually covers most aspects of our concern. Talent is spread equally everywhere, but opportunity is not. And it's actually, how do we create that opportunity with women, for women? How do we develop, support, and empower resilient women is absolutely crucial in the full delivery of our Sustainable Development Goals. And we need to transform behaviours. We need to remove prejudice. And dare I say it, we need to remove fear in men's views that they don't know what would happen putting women in charge and being part of groups deciding the future of infrastructure. And we need to ensure equal rights. There are many countries that have put in place equal rights, but we're far from actually delivering those equal rights in so many of these countries. And I'd like to put it to you that young people, it's all about young people. Our future and the guardians of our planet are the key to a more resilient world. And I will focus on how we did that in the Maldives. So, for me, women and men have a totally different psyche. And for full global delivery of our Sustainable Development Goals, it requires equal measures of both psyches for success. Not everyone wants to be a resilient woman. Not every woman can be a resilient woman. However, we need to maximize that potential in society, or we risk missing such a major contribution to create success, which is the reason I've called the title, Most Resilient but Hidden Potential. So here we're concentrating on the delivery of SDG 6, which is, of course, clean water and sanitation for all. And it focuses on 3, 4, and 5, good health and well-being, quality education, and gender equality. But surprise, surprise, when you look at the project outcome, it happens to deliver nearly all of our SDGs. So using the delivery of the Mali water supply and sewerage projects, I'll just explain what we were involved with doing. It was a United Nations project designed to eradicate endemic Shigella, cholera, typhoid, and paratyphoid. And before the project, on average, women had to give birth to nearly 8 children for 2 or 3 to reach adulthood. Such was the public health problem. And the project's design was to create rainwater harvesting and water storage to every household in the capital, and do the same on all the government buildings and go-downs, and link this to a central purification and simple distribution system around the capital to the mosques and public taps, and also install a comprehensive sewerage system. So if I look at the slide with everybody, the top left hand is an aerial view of the capital, Mali. So it's the capital of the Maldives in the Indian Ocean that we've been talking about earlier with the tsunami that went through a number of years ago. And there are about 150,000 people living on Mali at the moment. It's a very clean, beautiful country and lovely people. They speak Divehi. And on the top right is the water tower and centre of what became the Maldives Water and Sanitation Authority that I constructed to actually develop the sanitation and water system. On the lower left hand is a water tower adjacent to one of the mosques in Mali, and on the lower right is a water tank, rainwater harvesting water tank in one of the properties. Every property was connected in with its own rainwater harvesting system, and they could decide what sort of size of tank they would like put in, and this would keep rainwater for up to 88 days for the size of the families in these accommodations. And sewerage systems were put in, comprehensive on every road to every property. Now, on completion of the project, the hospital chief surgeon came to see me and told me that the infant mortality rate had immediately dropped so dramatically. And it was just an amazing sight to see in the hospital, that just massive change. In fact, the change was so much that a little bit later, we had to consider putting in an education system to put a child spacing program into Mali. Now, one thing that we did was to take the project into the schools, and we would explain all about the project, the rainwater cycle, rainwater collection, and what was going on in the aquifer beneath the island. And of course, that's where they were originally taking the water from, and that was being depleted and horribly polluted. And so this photograph shows one of the outcomes in one of the schools of a competition. Then we were broadcasting the understanding of the reason for the project, and you can see the happiness of all of the girls as they won the best exhibit that became public for the public to see. And of course, the young girls and boys went home and told their parents all about what they'd learned in physics and science and all about the environment that they live in. And that was very successful. Now, the The people that I dealt with as a client was the Ministry of Health. And everybody that I dealt with within the Ministry of Health was a woman. And therefore, we had a strong control of women actually looking after the whole development of the childhood process and reducing the mortality rate in the country and delivering what were then the Millennium Development Goals, the early part of MDGs, which subsequently became the SDGs. Now, the key things that came out of all of this for me were the importance of basically education, and the ownership of that knowledge through the education system, making sure that there's hands-on learning and experience, and the joyful learning of experience was so important. Sponsorship of specific people was so important as well, looking for people in the community who might create good engineers and opening up the whole aspect of the STEM subjects, which of course were not in place at that point, opening up to girls, empowerment being so important, and making sure that we could incentivize people with focused scholarships before the project started, and then making sure that there were role models in the community, that people could see what the women were doing for the community and for the project and delivering the project. And what that did was it brought in communications with everybody. It developed community meetings. Social media now is a key part of all of this, but it created consensus. And importantly, not just innovation, but usable innovation that everybody could buy into. It also produced public space, art and science for people to be more aware of the environment and rubbish and pollution. And an important aspect was, I see now in other projects, is making women aware of financial control and being in charge of the bank accounts for projects. And this makes sure there's a very efficient use of money and that it's not squandered. And then finally, the full ownership of the project at the end of the day. Basically, it's all about education, and wherever I go in the world, whether it's in the UK where we've got 16% of engineers are women, or when I go to the Gulf, the last time I was looking at the universities, the undergraduates there were more than 50% of the undergraduates were women. So in parts of the world, things are going particularly well. And in other parts, just round me, we could do a lot better. When I go into schools here and I ask children about where the water comes from, they will tell me that it comes from under the road. And when we were in the WFEO meetings in Costa Rica, I would go around Costa Rica, and the children, all of them would know where the water was coming from. So it's all about education of the young, and we need to wait some years, but it's actually getting that in place and making sure that we give everybody the opportunity and make them aware of the fantastic things that engineering can help them deliver in the world. So thank you for listening, everybody. I look forward to questions.
Thank you, Richard. I think it's Enyonam to do the next introductions quickly, please. That was great, Richard.
Thank you, Yetunde.
You're on mute, Enyonam. You're on mute. You're on mute. Enyonam. We still can't hear you.
You hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry for the mix-up. So moving on, we will go ahead and then we will introduce speakers for the next session. Cillia Molomo is the next speaker, and I'll go ahead and I think you introduced her. Did you introduce her Yetunde?
I think I introduced two people. Can you
Yes.
can we just do maybe a line introduction because of time? We're really short of time. So whoever we're introducing has to be a line, just who they are quickly.
All right. Okay. Okay. Then let me go ahead. Cillia is from South Africa, and I'll go ahead and introduce her shortly. Miss Cillia Molomo-Mphephu is an engineering and management professional registered with the Engineering Council of. In addition to her engineering qualifications, she also holds business qualifications. Currently, she's the director at Center of Engineering Excellence Limited, the company that she founded earlier in 2020. She previously held various positions in the engineering industry within Town and then the Department of Services and Denel. A few months shy of 30 years experience in the engineering profession and has built a wealth of experience in asset engineering. Additionally, additional to her ICSI registration, she's and Vice President of the South African Institute of Mechanical Engineering. She is also a member of the South African Asset Management Association. Also a member of the Motor Industry Bargaining Council and Motor Industry Staff Association. If you want additional information about her, please, her profile is in the flyer that we shared. So on this note, we will hand Ms. Cillia Molomo-Mphephu to share her presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this honorable introduction. I'm more than honored to be part of this session, and I will be giving a presentation on, and I just quickly share my screen. My presentation is on closing the innovation gap in infrastructure management, and I want us to underline the word management, the underrated role of women. I only have 10 minutes to give my presentation, and I must admit it's very challenging to talk after so many bright people spoke. So I hope you guys will still find some takeaway points from my presentation. I will be covering in my presentation the introduction, which will be on the SDGs and the gap. Identifying the gap, closing the gap, and conclusion. Under introduction, I think it's generally understood that the women are underrepresented in economic activities that relates to infrastructure. So I'm not going to even try to share any figures there for lack of time at the moment. But we also have the SDGs, which provides a platform for closing the gaps that may have been created deliberately or not deliberately. I'm not going to go through these points that I had written down. My presentation will be available after this session, so you're most welcome to indulge on it. But I think I need to mention on SDG 5, I decided, even though my presentation is focused on SDG 9, to include one objective of SDG 5, because you do not have SDG 9, without participation of women in leadership and decision-making positions, especially with regard to infrastructure, economic activities. So moving along, identifying the gap, I had taken the time to, go down the street of saying, okay, we are having this gap in as far as women participation is concerned. What could be the issues? And really having a frank moment there to say, what are the real issues? Not the issues that I would want to advance as a woman, but the issues that we need to agree on as society to say, here are the gaps, and for us to start covering them, here are the approaches. So I was humbled to see so many support, especially as contained in many of our official documents, like the South African law, in as far as our Bill of Rights in South Africa is concerned. It will talk about, or rather be premised on, the issues of equality, and as well with issues of equality, you'll have access. What do you call it? Sorry, you'd have expectation to provide access to services for all your citizens. So the Bill of Rights in South Africa emphasizes that, which is aligned to the SDG 9 that I'll be talking about. So I just thought I should mention that. But then it's not only that, I also wanted to understand what are the issues really? Why are women not making a bigger part of this very important subject? And the NIP 2050 over there is the National Infrastructure Plan of South Africa. And I must hasten to say, this analysis is based on South Africa. I do appreciate the fact that I'm talking to people from, across the globe, but yeah, and I'm sure you'd find some of these points to be relevant to the space where you are. We also have the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability in South Africa, which also emphasizes inclusion of women in many roles. And EXA strategy, I was very privileged to be part of a number of fora at EXA, where the president and the CEO of EXA and their team took us through the strategy for EXA. And you look at it and you can see that, there's a whole platform prepared to enable involvement of women in infrastructure issues, but then you still ask yourself, what are the issues? And from professional voluntary associations as well, South Africa has got professional voluntary associations where engineers from different disciplines can congregate and cross-learn, cross-pollinate ideas and advance things together. We have academia for research and development. Industry has been coming to the party on, issues related to women, and going to even as far as availing the, what do you call it? The CSI, yes, I will find the full meaning of that just now. We have status A, which highlight to how are we faring in as far as the things that we plan to do as a country are concerned. So just about everything that we need to be able to know whether we are covering ground or not covering ground. All the things that I mentioned, there are SDGs that are due in 2030 as well, that also provide a platform for women to play a role in a whole lot of other issues, including even in SDG 9. So all this basis, all this supports to women's participation culminate in many, many, many plans. And those when you look through many of the plans, you find that well developed and they are so inclusive. So anyone who want to play a role is covered in those plans. Then you ask yourself, then where are we going wrong? And that is where we need to focus. Is it the implementation? Who implements and who implements? How is it that at this point, then we start leaving behind women? We go to school with males, well academically, males, and you ask yourself if the later stage are going to have to catch up with men, with the fall of the bus. So that remains a big question. So as we move right along, now on closing the gap. Sorry. On closing the gap, I'm saying, and I will go back to the issue of implementation, but on closing the gap, I'm saying, are we providing enough platform? Are we supercharging our environment to be accommodating to women and their contribution? If we're not, the women who are in decision-making powers, and I know there are a lot of women in decision-making powers, are we availing space in the boardrooms for women to be part of those boardroom discussions? And if you are not in that boardroom, are you onto somebody who's in the boardroom to make sure that your views are represented in that boardroom? So it's a number of questions that we need to ask ourselves before we can start thinking of closing the gap. Now, in closing the gap, we would look at innovations to say, boardroom that is rigid, what is it that we can do to innovate? And before we reach for our dictionaries to try to find a sophisticated definition for innovation, I've taken the time to ponder on it, and I've presented my views as just these two. Innovation is a new idea or a new method or both. As long as this new idea makes you to perform what you were performing yesterday the hard way easier today. So that's innovation. And maybe I should also hasten to give an example before I even get to the model that I want to discuss. In the year 2013, I was to go attend an AGM 60 kilometers away from where I live. I thought that was very far. I mean, if you want to have an enabling environment in fulfilling your roles or in participating in areas where you'd be able to network and be developed for, being better at what you're doing, you need to have the resources located closer to you. You cannot have to travel 60 kilometers to go attend an AGM. Well, I still went to attend that AGM, and when I was there, I made sure that I meet the most significant person there and tell them that I'm not coming back to an AGM here. I will be having an AGM, less than 5 kilometers away from where I live. And he said, how are you going to do that? And I said, be a branch that side, and I'll champion it. This was a man, and that team was just men. And if we are saying the environment is not really receptive to us, let us, ponder on these examples and say, in some of these examples, why are we getting a good reception from the male counterparts? And 10 years later, we're having a branch that was developed then, still functioning, and it has attracted over 600 people. So it was just a need at the time, and an idea was discussed with just an individual. 10 years later, people are benefiting from that branch. So there was no use of any sophisticated, processes and all that. But 10 years later, we're having a branch where people can go and cross-share ideas and advance the profession. Now, this model, the two black figures there, it's a woman and a man. And I am saying innovation knows no gender. But if we are to innovate on issues related to infrastructure, whoever innovates, they need to factor in, or they need to find it in their hearts to create an environment for women in there. But it remains women's responsibility to say, I want to be at that table. And we are saying that you wonder, because now when you look at SDG 9, it talks more to ICT issues and what. And then we also have, hardware, like your physical infrastructure. So the possibilities are endless in that space. You look at this gadget and you're saying, how can I marry this gadget to this hardware? I am not going to try to say these are the innovations that you can do to make sure that the SDG 9 is achieved. That is for individuals to say, what innovation can I bring in to be able to advance those SDGs? And as I do that, I take with me women and even the youth. And when I'm talking about the youth now, I'm no longer just talking about women, I'm talking about mixed group of youth. Because why are wanting to solve issues related to women's representation in infrastructure activities, we are also wanting to say to a boy child, don't be toxic. You and a female child, you make a good team going forward. Inequality may have been as a result of the history we're coming from, but we can burden the youth with what we went through. We need to, by all means, address the imbalances that came with history. That we going forward, we need to make interventions that puts both a girl, boy, child on an equal footing according to their proportion in society. And here. Yeah, okay. Another important thing with this approach is that you will see I only have two individuals there, a man and a woman. Why? I could have had a group of women there, pushing women's agenda. But we do not want to create a situation whereby you would have staff riders, passengers in here. So the initiatives or the innovations to bring change to the spaces where we are wanting women to be well represented need to be an individual's decision. And when all those individuals come together, then we can be a formidable force, covering the gap on this infrastructure issue. And the same will come from the men's side as well. I mean, if you have a nation that decides, okay, men are not good enough because they are weaker in strength and that they shouldn't be contributing to our course of action, you as a nation are the one who are going to be missing out on that resource that you are not utilizing. So I think at some point we may need to, take a moment and pause and say, what are the repercussions of leaving some of the essential or rather most important role players in whatever that we are trying to pursue? The women in many countries, I think their proportion bigger than those of men. And I think many studies are really confirming that. So we need to make sure that we create a room for this resources that are in big supply as compared to our male counterparts to also play a role in economic activities. Yes, it will be to their benefit, but it will also be to the benefit of the country if we utilize our resources fully. Now, as I summarize closing the gap, I'm saying we need to leverage on what is on offer at ICSI and at SAIMechE and other voluntary bodies to be able to cover ground in as far as the issues that we are wanting to advance on representation of women or any groups that are disadvantaged. Why am I saying this? Yes, in SAIMechE, in SAIMechE and all other voluntary bodies, they're going to find community of like-minded people who are also participating in that space that you are trying to impact on. I'm saying be the one to usher in the new era of women's involvement in infrastructure-related decision-making and management activities. This activity cannot be put aside for somebody else to do it for us. Whoever are concerned about this participation, and in most cases, it should be women because we are shortchanged in this space. So whoever is shortchanged needs to be the one to take the baton and run with it and say, I want to champion this change. And when people see you doing your best, who are not interested in making a contribution there, they will come because they feel you are convinced about your story and convinced about the story, and you know they are going to achieve this. Or attention from whoever can contribute better to their course of action. So I would say, please don't undermine, and especially women, don't undermine the contribution that you can make with just your simple idea or just a simple process that you want to put into the mix to change the trajectory of things. Sorry, it's very difficult to speak on a Friday afternoon, but I'm almost done. I'm also saying, as we do the above activities, we must also define the characteristics of future champions for sustainability. And there, I'm very biased again to saying you can't aim to achieve your goals by only focusing on people who are sitting in that boardroom and who maybe at their 40s, at their 50s, whereas you're talking about goals of 2030, goals of 2050. Have young people in there as well. And
I'm afraid we have to interrupt you here. We are we're meant to finish this at 4:30. With due respect, we'll see your slides on the WFEO website. This has been fantastic, and I've picked up quite a few things that the women have to go for it themselves. They cannot wait and expect to be served equity on a plate. They must be part of it themselves. I think that's one of the things we're able to get. And the innovation, there's no gender. Just ideas and just new ways of doing things, new methods, new ideas and new things. So I'm so sorry to have to interrupt you. The WFEO in Paris.
No, that's fine. I don't understand.
Okay, thank you.
This was the last slide anyway, but thank you.
I'll show the slide, but we have to end this presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Apologies again to not just Engineer Cillia, who has given us so much, but to everybody here. We have two more interesting presentations. We have WIE and we have Ania we have WIE from Malaysia, and we have Ania from Italy. So I will do just a one-liner for their profiles. I will not, so that we save some time. I'll just do a one-liner, just their profiles. So Ania is let me just look at that quickly. Sorry about that. Now I'm delaying. So I think I've read Ania. Have I read Ania? Yes, I've read Ania. So it's just why I need to read. She received her Professor Dr. Leong is a brilliant engineer from Malaysia. She received her PhD in electrical engineering and bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia in 2005. She specializes in medical signal processing and telecommunications research, and she has been researching IR 4.0 wireless sensors. She has been awarded the Private Education Excellence Awards 2022, and she's the winner of she's the laureate of the WFEO Women in Engineering Award, first runner-up of the 2021 Women Malaysia WEP Award. She's also been the national and international academic accreditation. She has been on the national and international academic accreditation panel for more than 20 universities and over 10 years of research and industry experience in Australia, Singapore, and the UK and Malaysia, with special interest in biomedical signals and lamps. I bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, WIE. I must also forget Ania. I think I've introduced you earlier on. So after WIE, we'll just go to Ania. Thank you very much indeed. And apologies again to all the participants. Thank you. WIE, just 10 minutes, and if you can make it 7, it will be better.
Good day.
Thank you. If you can make it 10 minutes, it'll be better. WIE.
Of engineering organizations, Women in Engineering Committee. I'm also the Vice President of International Network of Women Engineers and Scientists. I'm also from the Institutions of Engineering and Technology. The topic that I'm going to share with you today is Women Engineers in Industry Revolution 5.0. Industry Revolution 4.0 technology, including big data, Internet of Things, additive manufacturing, simulations, augmented reality, system integrations, and robotics. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving towards Industry Revolution 5.0, which is more human-centric. We want to promote talents. We want to stay in a more diversified community and promote human empowerment. The world has to be more resilient. We as a women engineers need to be more resilient and sustainable in our career. Look at the Industry 5.0 compared to Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is focusing on connecting machines. However, 5.0 is on delivering customer experience. 4.0 is on mass customizations, intelligent supply chain, smart products, and manpower distant from factory. However, for Industry 5.0, we are looking for hyper customizations, responsive and distributed supply chain, experienced products, and returns of manpower to factory. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first industrial revolutions, we use steam engines to replace horse and human power. Second industrial revolutions, we make use of the steel, electricity, and combustion engines. The third industrial revolutions, we make use of the computer, digitalization, and the internet. We are now into fourth industrial revolutions. We use artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, blockchains, and cycle. Moving towards fifth industrial revolutions, we need more talents, manpowers for innovation purpose and inclusivity. Looking at the industrial revolutions, the main purpose is to be more sustainable. Especially we are in a very diverse ecosystem, from the steam-based machine to electricity, computer-based knowledge, artificial intelligence, big data. Now we need to enhance the relationship based on humanity, planet, and to be more inclusive. The world is getting more and more challenging. So what sort of skill do we need in the fourth and fifth industrial revolutions? First of all, learn to be listen, talk. We need to sharpen our problem-solving skill, be more creative, be more sustainable, be positive, aim high, with strong leadership and teamwork. These are the universal framework of essential skills to deal with fourth and fifth industrial revolutions. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the statistic on full-time employed engineers and computer professionals by gender in year 2021, engineering is still dominated by men. 35% of the ladies in environment engineering, 32% on computer and informations, 25% in biomedical engineering, and the rest is getting lesser and lesser. So majority of the engineering profession are dominated by male. Based on the statistic on women in selected STEM occupations from year 1980 to 2022, we found that most of the ladies that prefer pure science professions. For instance, biological scientists, chemists, and material scientists. The involvement for ladies in architecture and engineering is still very low, only 16.1% in year 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the statistic on proportions of 25 to 34-year-old men and women employed with a bachelor degree in STEM by occupations in year 2019, we found that only 8.9% are engineers, 13.5% of ladies are computer scientists and mathematicians, and the rest are non-STEM occupations. Ladies, we want to see more women in engineering. I believe we have a very diversified skill. We are more multitasking, and we can contribute a lot in the engineering field. There are many efforts to encourage women in technology and women in engineering. For this year, 2023, International Women's Day theme is on digital innovations and technology for gender equality. There are many Women in Engineering Award, Women in Technology Award to recognize the effort of the ladies' involvement in science, technology, and engineering. For all the ladies here, I will strongly encourage you to be more confident, well-equipped with all these essential skills on listening, speaking, problem-solving, creativity, stay positive, aim high with strong leadership and teamwork. You'll be very successful in the future. You'll be very confident to face the industry revolutions. So these are the very important universal framework for essential skills. Thank you very much.
That was fantastic, WFEO. I'll just say that listening, speaking, problem solving, creativity, staying positive, aiming high, leadership, and of course, teamwork are the things that a resilient woman will need in the world to make a resilient world. Thank you so much for that. Because we don't have time, we have to go to Ania quickly. Ania, we just have you on for a few minutes quickly. We have to skip the question and answer session, which we had planned so carefully, but we'll listen to Ania and then we'll just have to call it a day. Thank you so much. Ania.
Good afternoon. I tried to speak and explain because the topic is very important and very interested. The title, Resilient Women and War. I have a presentation. Okay. I would like to introduce the topic a bit different way. I have a relationship with United Nations Women Report and SDG. But first, I would like thank you so much of WFEO Committee of Women, the President Yetunde, and the fellow colleagues for the support in this year, for this event, for other activity. This is very, very important for international organization is WFEO. I think that this is a crucial moment to talk about is a resilient world, but we have also to do through. So women engineer is know that the women life expectancy is higher. In this case, I show the show a picture about European Union than men. In this case, in Europe, through and United Nations Women Report Connection SDG, and we want to make people understand why the resilience of the world all pass through women engineer. I show you SDG 2. I subdivide concrete fact, good practice, and role model. In this case, the question is, zero hunger in 2030? Probably yes, but the Women Throat Project in FAO, the United Nations Agency of Agriculture and Food, carry out in various projects. We have been working hard with FAO for a collaboration with FAO. We are proceeding with the signing agreement with collaboration and greater presence of engineer in a different area in agri-food sector. This is the sample in Bolivia with indigenous women and work. This is a organization. The third, SDG 3, talk about with a women biomedical engineer. Mind just the healthcare hidden heroes every day in the hospital around the world. They keep patients safe, but managing medical technology, keeping track of inventor, they making sure every piece of equipment is working to its best. This is a good practice. Quality education. This is a project university program involves support of female students of engineer. This is in Turkey, and enroll in a computer environment and electrical in different area of engineering department. While the support provided in the university program runs from a scholarship and to mentoring by volunteer female professional of engineer. This is this event participating in United Nations Women activity. This is very, very important for the future engineer. This is in Italy. The government introduced the new law for a private company about wage certification, not to longer have a conventional different salary, women and men. In order access to advantage provides to mission company will therefore to able the requirement to accreditate certification of management system for gender equality according. This is a practical, this is a process that is very good for a women. 6, I would like to talk about with the best practice and WFEO, the hackathon, okay? Focus attention on a young engineer and a student of engineer or participate in World Engineering Day in Madrid. The challenge 2 and the second place talk about with water and sanitation. This is a good practice, and the finalists, the number of the women and the men is 50%. This is a good practice, a role model, and concrete fact. The seventh, this is a special activity that United Nations Women Act to extend energy assets through gender-inclusive energy planning and policies, promoting women's impregnation for sustainable energy and improving women's skill and access the final resource. This is the example concrete with Tanzania, with energy, electrical and energy engineer, Aisha Mohammed. The last, I have very quickly, this is the activity that WFEO organized with the special and promoting the Small Island Development State with Mauritius. My colleagues, different colleagues participate in the journal for proposal a solution for the climate change, and organize the starting a project with a training with Mauritanian engineer for two schools, to primary and secondary school, to climate change and other activity. And this girl, this is engineer, and sent Jenna a postcard about climate change. This is a lot of good practice and concrete fact, a role model that women and engineer have together. My conclusion is a challenge. Engineer, women and the men, thought as an actor and of economic, social, and environmental development through the Strategy Alliance achievement to Agenda 2013 SDG. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ania. That was a great presentation with all the examples of job work that is happening at the UN level and also at the world level. I'm so grateful. I believe we have learned a lot today. We have been exposed to the work that is happening all across the globe regarding the achievement of the SDGs. The SDGs we covered over 11 days. And we wish we could have had the question time, but we are hard pressed with time, as my co-moderator, Engineer Yetunde, mentioned. And so on this note, we would like to thank all the speakers for availing themselves, bringing us insight into the very great strategies that are being done across the challenges and how we can overcome the challenges, how we can be resilient, and how we can also showcase the work we are doing, and also be able to stand in with all the different skills that are required, build ourselves up with the skills that have been shared with us today. I believe that we are going back and we are not going to remain the same. We will, as has been highlighted by engineer. We have just about 7 years to go towards our SDGs, and we still have a lot of work to do. So we are hoping that we'll continue to remain resilient, and actually build a resilient world together with all the innovation, with all the collaboration. Thank you so much. We would like to call upon our engineer, Shehu, to President-elect of WFEO, to give us the closing remarks. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much, Engineer Yetunde and Engineer Enyonam. I think, let me see, my screen is, Yeah. Thank you very much. I think we have done justice to the time allotted to us, and I thank all the presenters for really delivering the expectations. I also want to thank the president of WFEO, President Professor José Vieira, for certain need to excel. I believe this is one of the committees that has really excelled during the tenure of President Vieira. So we thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving the women all the support. I believe that is deliberate and also in line with the priorities of the WFEO and as well as all the United Nations organs. And of course, that kind of approach has to be maintained in the years ahead. The topic of this particular webinar, resilient women, resilient world, resilient world, is really I find it very interesting. And for the organizers to assemble resilient women, you know, to really participate in this webinar, I find it very interesting. So all the speakers have talked a lot about the need for the involvement of women to have a resilient world, especially in terms of trying to ensure that the women are educated right from, you know, their childhood, that is at the primary, secondary schools and at the university level. And after the university level, they also should be given all the support to make sure that they excel in their individual careers. And when we say support is, we mean very good job opportunities, and when they get the job also to be made very, very active in wherever they find themselves. Because it's one thing for somebody to have a job, it's another thing entirely to have the opportunity to excel in the job. And I believe with the area of women we have in this particular program, and in very many places, you know, not only in Africa, but all over the world, I believe the trend is changing, and women are giving a lot of opportunities to excel. Women are giving a lot of opportunity for even leadership. And at least for WFEO, we know we also have had our own very good share of women leading the institution in the persons of Dr. Marlene Kanga, as well as sorry, the first woman to lead the WFEO, the lady from Spain. I'm trying to, can somebody, Maria Prieto Lafage, exactly. So with this woman, and if you look at their tenure, both of them, they did very, very well as leaders in WFEO, and the trend is also extending to international members of the WFEO, like Federation of African Engineering Organizations, and also some national member organizations like Institution of Engineers Kenya, and here in Nigeria also, we are getting ready to have a woman to lead the Nigerian Society of Engineers in the person of Margaret Oguntala. So I believe the trend globally is improving. And of course, we cannot have a resilient world till we have resilient women, because women make up almost 50% of the global population. So if we really want to achieve the sustainable development goals in all its forms and ramifications, all of us, both men and women, need to be very resilient. So with this, I want to thank all the participants for this particular session. And I also have to comment that the papers are very, very interesting, and I hope they have been downloaded in the WFEO website so that some of us can go through the website and download them for further referencing. So with this, let me thank the chairwoman in engineering, Yetunde Holloway, for doing justice to the leadership of this particular committee, and all these participants for sparing your time and articulating this particular presentations, which were very well prepared, well presented, and also well received. So thank you very much, and I wish everybody a good afternoon, a good evening, and good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good night and bye-bye, everybody.